On September 12th, 2011, at approximately 1200 hours, I was notified by our dispatch center that Sergeant Jason Olson was requesting I respond to a major traffic accident involving a motorcyclist. I arrived on scene and was briefed of the incident. It was reported to me that Sergeant Olson arrived on scene within minutes of the original call. Sergeant Olson reported both the motorcycle and vehicle were fully involved with fire and that the motorcyclist, Brandon Wright, was pinned beneath the vehicle. The group of citizens quickly organized, and working together, they were able to lift the black BMW enough for Mr. Wright to be pulled from underneath. Because of the volatility of the fire, the citizens moved away from the vehicles after Mr. Wright was extricated, while police officers temporarily stabilized the fire and Mr. Wright until EMT and fire personnel arrived on scene. Once on scene, Logan EMT and fire personnel attended to Mr. Wright and transported him to the hospital and neutralized the fire. Mr. Wright was soon transferred to IMC in Murray, Utah via life flight. The Logan Police Department would like to recognize and thank those citizens who placed their own safety second to the needs of Mr. Wright in a situation where he may have died as a result of the accident. Their quick response, along with a handful of valiant leaders encouraging the plan, likely saved the life of Mr. Wright. The accident is still under investigation, and data is still currently being collected by the Utah Highway Patrol, who is assisting in the report and the reconstruction of the accident. It is not suspected at this time that alcohol or drugs played any role in this accident. The father of Mr. Wright has asked that we pass on their gratitude for all those involved in saving their son's life. Brandon has indicated to his family that he would like to make a personal statement of gratitude in the near future when he is able to do so.
If you see me roll on scene, I was actually motioning to the second officer that was rolling up that I needed a jack out of his car. There was only 2 or 3 people around the car at this time, and before we could make any other plans, we had a dozen people there that had organized in seconds, and they were tipping the car up, and so I thought that's probably the best plan B, and they were in control, and it looked like they were going to be able to safely get that young man up from underneath the car. I've lived here my whole life, so it doesn't surprise me that much. But it certainly it kind of takes you back a little bit, because you realize that these people maybe don't realize themselves that there's some danger involved, and they forgot all that for a couple of minutes until this person was at least pulled safely away from the fire. I think the danger is imminent. At that point, especially on 3 or 4 of them are within feet. The vehicle, I was at the back, and I was almost the last one to grab a hold. These people had already done that job, and so the people that are closer to the engine compartment, that vehicle was hot to the touch, even in the rear. So I'm actually surprised that none of them needed medical assistance themselves for the smoke inhalation, the other stuff that can be going on as far as the heat and popping debris and those types of things. It was a very volatile scene. As I saw a young lady hit down on her belly, which was an indicator to me that somebody was under the car. And that's all I had to see. At that point, I was just trying to get some sort of a device to jack that car up, or you get a tool of some sort. And it was only a matter of seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, before there were a dozen citizens there and had this car up on 2 wheels. I barely had enough time to react to the change of plans. I thought it was awesome. To be honest with you, I was worried about him, and you probably can see from the video that once they had drugged the person out from underneath, we quickly get away from the vehicle. And I was telling him, okay, now everybody get back. I feel bad. I probably didn't even thank him at the time, but I do remember escorting the people away, so in case anything happened, and that's really all I remember. Anyway, if I remember correctly, once he was out of the way of the vehicle, he's still in pretty close proximity to the actual fire. And so myself and 2 or 3 other officers took fire extinguishers and were trying to at least stabilize the fire. And somebody came up to me that was a nurse, and we decided that time that we were going to stabilize him. So there is a period of time when we had to prioritize a little bit, and decrease some of the other danger. We didn't know at that point whether should we move him farther, or should we try to stabilize the fire. We chose at that time it was best to try to stabilize the fire. We had extinguishers there readily available, and after the fire was knocked down to a point where we felt like we could work on him a little bit, then the nurse came up and introduced himself, and we started trying to mobilize him.
I'm a graduate student in the statistics department, math and stats department. I was working in the department because the building is like very close to the highway, and then all of a sudden like you hear like just screaming that like in the department that they need like fire extinguishers. And so we hurried out to see what's happening, and all we see is like flames getting out of the car and the motorcycle. The first thing that like happened, like the thing about like James and Amber, like we were trying to find the driver of the motorcycle. Maybe he was like thrown away from the motorcycle. We didn't even think that he would be under the car, because it's a very low car. Like it's even maybe touching the ground. Like, but apparently this like a lady, I believe like she's the hero. She was the leader to point us towards the Brandon who was in the accident. And then, like, suddenly, without even thinking too much, maybe I had, like, this thought that this might be illegal here, but then I was like, I don't care. You can put me in jail, you can deport me, you can do whatever, but there's a person, like, he might, die or get burned. I don't care about these things. So, the people started lifting the car, and then we ran towards the car. We helped also, like, lifting, and then good thing that he was still alive and he wasn't burned, like he didn't have any burn on his body. Well, at that time, as I said, you don't think too much. The adrenaline that you had in your body was like very high, so you wouldn't even think about anything. Like the only thing would be like, oh, he's, it's just like your human instinct will help, like will push you to do that. It's not like nothing else other than that. It's human instinct.
She told me the woman is lying down because there's somebody under the car. And the only thing that came to my mind was, just go and get some help. And all I did was to give the printout to my wife and quickly right there. And I talked to Tim. Tim was trying to put people together to see if it's possible we could just lift the car and somebody else to pull him out of the car. And that is what we did. As soon as we started, people came to join us and then we were able to lift the car.
What about the danger?
The danger, I didn't think of it for a minute, because all I thought of it was my son under the car, or my brother, or my relative. He doesn't care who was under the car, so long as we can give him a second chance. You never know.
I put my mother.
Just after we put it on, that was when I realized how heavy the car was. I felt it in my joints, in my arms. It was very heavy. From what I saw, I felt like it was the motorcycle that was more on fire than the car. So there was still a higher chance that we could help him.
I don't know where to begin. I guess I called 911. I saw the accident happen, and I think I was in a little bit of shock myself. I was wearing a black shirt and tan pants, a button-up shirt, and I was kind of wandering around, and when everybody else would go to the car, I'd go over to the car, and I don't really even know if I knew what I was doing, but I thought for sure I was probably one of the people that told Tom that kid was dead. After seeing the accident, I was fairly certain that when we pulled him out from under the car, we were going to see something very disturbing. And to be honest, when he started breathing, I was completely surprised. I really didn't expect that.
Matt, do you guys consider yourselves heroes?
No. I mean, honestly, anybody, and I hope anybody here would have done the same thing. I mean, it's second nature. If you see someone in trouble, you help them. And I know that maybe people would think that is dumb to risk your own life to help someone, but at that time you're not thinking that. It doesn't really, it doesn't cross your mind. You're in the moment. And someone's hurt and you do what you need to, and anybody would.
Driver of the car doing
He was in shock. I felt kind of bad for him. There's been some rough comments said about him as I looked at comments on some of these news websites. And honestly, I don't think he had any idea what was really going on. He was really worried about the safety of the young man, and I think he was thinking the worst as well. He was very emotional and shaken up. Obviously, I'm sure this is probably the worst things that ever happened to him. Today, it's amazing that we lifted that car and it's sliding. And I remember thinking as we were lifting the car, this stupid driver's door is open and it's going to keep us from being able to lift it. Anyway, in retrospect, yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing, I suppose. But
other people was lifting the car. I looked. I tried to pull the body underneath, and at that time I saw he was unconscious, and it was kind of, there were so many blood, and I saw a lot of blood near to his head. And since we lifting just one side, I could pull the body only. So when I pull it, I saw blood trace produced by the head, and the first thing what I thought, he was dead. And in 2 minutes, I guess, in 2 minutes after, I noticed how he had like deep breath. And at that time I was glad because we could help him to survive his accident. I'm glad he's good now.
I could see he was trying to breathe, so I thought we better get him out of there, and the whole car was going to go. And I first thought I was going to run back to the truck and get a jack. That's not going to work. And then I grabbed a hold of the vehicle just to see how heavy it was, and that's not going to work. And then we got about 3 or 4 people, and that didn't work. And then disorganized, everyone kind of organized, and they charged the vehicle. And he was out, and I didn't even, some guy grabbed him so fast with a pink shirt that it was just a flash. In 1 second.
Sir,
I kind of felt bad after we did all this, and everyone hurt their back, because when they dragged him out, I looked at it, and I said, that guy's going to die. And I walked off, got in my car, and drove away. And I said, that was just wasted effort. I was totally amazed that he's alive. I thought it was a wasted effort.
For a second, before we pulled him out, I thought, dead or alive, I don't want to sit here and watch this guy burn, whether he's alive or not in there. So that thought crossed my mind for